Good day everyone. I am Julia and Perlas. I am going to discuss the continuation of the project and management, and my topic is about PERT and CPM. Let's identify first the objectives. First, we have defined PERT and CPM. Second, key differences between PERT and CPM, and benefits of network planning technique. Before we start, I'll give definition for project management first. Project management is a systematic way of planning, scheduling, executing, monitoring, controlling the different aspects of the project so as to attain the goal made at the time of project formulation. Its purpose is to plan and manage a project to successfully complete its listed goals and deliverables. Moving on to the definition of PERT and CPM. So what is PERT and CPM? These are the two network-based project management techniques which exhibit the flow and sequence of activities and events. It's like creating a diagram or node showing how an activity or project would be done. It's a step-by-step process, like you can't do the second step without getting the first step done. Date back to the 1950s, PERT was originally developed to plan and monitor the Polaris missile, an extremely large project using over 3,000 contractors and involving thousands of activities. It is credited with reducing the project duration by 2 years. Because of its success, most government contracts still require the use of PERT or a similar technique. On the other hand, CPM was initially developed to plan and coordinate maintenance projects in chemical plants. Defining separately, ano nga ba ang PERT? PERT is an acronym for Program or Project Evaluation and Review Technique, in which planning, scheduling, organizing, coordinating, and controlling activities take place. It is a network planning technique used to determine a project's completion date and identify the project's critical path. The technique studies and represents the tasks undertaken to complete a project, to identify the least time for completing a task, and the minimum time required to complete the whole project. PERT uses time as a variable which represents the planned resource application along with performance specification. In this technique, first of all, the project is divided into activities and events. After that, proper sequence is ascertained. Then a network is constructed. After the time needed in every activity is calculated, the critical path or the longest path connecting all the events is determined. What is CPM? CPM or Critical Path Method is an algorithm used for planning, scheduling, coordination, and control of activities in a project. Here, it is assumed that the activity duration is fixed and certain. CPM is used to compute the earliest and latest possible start time for each activity. So it is defined as a network planning technique with deterministic times used to determine a project's planned completion date and identify the project's critical path. Deterministic time means assumption that the activity duration is known with certainty. The process differentiates the critical and non-critical activities to reduce the time and avoid the queue generation in the process. The reason for the identification of critical activities is that if any activity is delayed, it will cause the whole process to suffer. That's why it is named as Critical Path Method. In this method, first of all, a list is prepared consisting of all the activities needed to complete a project, followed by the computation of time required to complete each activity. After that, the dependency between the activities is determined. Here, path is defined as a sequence of activities in a network. So later we will have diagram to explain this. The critical path is the path with the highest length. To discuss the key differences between PERT and CPM, a table was made to compare them. First, we have meaning. PERT is a project management technique used to manage uncertain activities of a project, to plan and control large-scale projects, while CPM is a statistical technique of project management that manages well-defined activities of a project, plans and controls complex but routine projects. Second, orientation. In PERT, network can be constructed on the basis of events, whereas in CPM, jobs and activities forms the basis for constructing network. PERT is based on probabilistic model. CPM uses deterministic model because you cannot identify how much time it will take to complete the project in case of fault, but this is possible in CPM. When it comes to focus, PERT focuses on time, that is meeting time target. Conversely, CPM focuses on time and cost trade-off as it gives importance to optimizing cost. Fifth, while PERT deals with unpredictable activities, CPM deals with predictable activities. Next, when it comes to appropriateness, PERT technique is best suited for a high-precision time estimate, whereas CPM is appropriate for a reasonable time estimate. Lastly, PERT is best for research and development projects, but CPM is for non-research projects like construction projects. Benefits of network planning techniques include graphical display of the project, including the relationships and sequence of activities. Second, estimate the expected project length. And third, method for determining which activities are critical to the timely completion of the project and are therefore included in the critical path. In business, before a company can source materials for a new product, the designers have to finish the product design. Project managers use these network planning techniques to first identify project activities and precedent relationships. Project managers use this technique to create a document reflecting the activities, the responsible department, and the necessary resources such as time, people, and equipment. Second, calculate the expected completion time of the project. Project managers use this technique to plan additional projects and negotiate contracts with clients. For example, the customer may include a monetary penalty if the project is not completed by a certain date or a bonus if the project is completed ahead of schedule. Third, identify the activities critical to the timely completion of the project. Project managers use this technique to identify activities that can be delayed without affecting the project's completion to provide some flexibility for the project manager. Let's look at these steps in detail. Step 1. Describe the project. Describe the project in terms that everyone will understand. Include the project objective and the project end date. For example, the project may be the release of a specific new product by September 15, or it may be ISO certification by the end of the calendar year. Given the project objective, define the project activities in terms of resource requirements such as labor, equipment, and cash, and precedence relationships. After describing the project, the second step is to diagram the network. Diagram the project as a network, visually displaying the interrelationships between the activities. So there are two kinds of network diagrams. First is the activity on arrow and activity on node. So in this discussion, we will focus on activity on node diagrams. Activity on nodes diagram represents project activities by nodes and precedence relationships by arrows. We can use the network diagram to determine the project's critical path. Here are the example of diagrams. So first, figure A shows the simple case in which we must do activity A before doing activity B, which we must do before activity C. It shows that you can't do the next step unless you're done with the first step. In figure B, the diagram indicates that we must finish activity A first before we can begin both activities B and C. In figure C, we must finish both activities A and B before either activity C or D can begin. The last figure, figure D, is an example in which we can begin two activities, B and C. When we finish activity A, then we can begin activity D only after we finish both activities B and C. Step 3. Estimate the project's completion time. To estimate the completion time of the project manager evaluates the connected paths through the diagram to determine which of the routes takes the longest time. The longest connected route through the diagram is the critical path. The sum of the lengths of time of each of the activities on the critical path determines the minimum completion time for the project. If an activity on the critical path is delayed, the completion of the project is delayed as well. We estimate the project completion time based on the time estimates for the project activities. Activity time estimates can be either probabilistic or deterministic. We use probabilistic time estimates when we are unsure about the duration of project activities. For example, because of technical problems, bad weather, delayed material delivery, and less than expected labor productivity. On the other hand, we use deterministic time estimates when we have done similar activities in the past and can make a reliable time estimate. Conclusion. The difference between these two project management tools is getting blurred as the techniques are merged with the passage of time. That is why, in most projects, they are being used as a single project. The primary point that distinguishes PERT from CPM is that the former gives the extreme importance of time. Example is, if the time is minimized, consequently the cost will also be reduced. However, cost optimization is the basic element in the latter. Thank you.